There we go. Will y'all please stand? We're welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for July 26, 2022. It's approximately 7 p.m. We have a full house here, and we appreciate everybody who's here as well as everybody who's watching farther away. We're going to begin our meeting as we typically do. That's with a prayer and with the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight, providing our prayer, our opening prayer, is Pastor Dwayne Harris. He is the lead pastor at the Hendersonville Church of the Nazarene. Pastor Harris, we appreciate very much what you do for our community, what your church does for our community as well. We appreciate you opening us with prayer. He's going to make sure to mention Shirley Wilson. Shirley Wilson recently passed away. She was an alderman for the city of Hendersonville. She was very, very involved with League of Women Voters in Hendersonville, and she did tremendous work, and she was very committed to so many organizations and to so many causes in Hendersonville. She passed away almost 2 weeks ago. Her family is very much still part of the community, and the whole community is going to miss her. Pastor Harris.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the invitation to come and to lead us in a word of prayer. So if we could take a moment, let's bow our heads to the Lord. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and we thank you for the privilege that we have to be together and to serve this city and this community that we all love so much. Father, I pray your blessings over the elected members that are here. I pray for your hand of blessing over them and over their families that are represented. And Lord, we want to lift up Shirley Wilson's family to you tonight. We thank you, Lord, for the many years of service that she gave to this community and for the impact and the legacy that she's left on so many people. And so, Lord, as her family and friends and loved ones grieve her passing, we pray for your comfort and for your peace in these difficult days. I pray your anointing and your blessing over this meeting tonight. I pray, Lord, that there would be a spirit of unity and grace and kindness and peace as we all work for the common good of this community. I pray that you would give wisdom and discernment to the aldermen and for everything that is discussed in the agenda tonight. And Lord, most of all, I ask, Father, that if anyone here does not know you, I pray that they would come to know the saving grace and love of your Son, Jesus Christ. For we know that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, that you are our only hope for today and for eternity. And so we give you all the praise, all the honor, and all the glory through all that is said and done, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. That was Pastor Dwayne Harris. He's visiting us from the Hendersonville Church of the Nazarene. We appreciate you very much providing the prayer for us. So please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I am entertaining a motion that we accept our agenda. Everybody is present here. We have a motion from Alderman Robertson, I believe that was. Need a second? I'm sorry? Alderman Petrelli is not here. I'm sorry. Second from Alderman Skidmore. Now, I want you all to acknowledge, please, Resolution 22-36. That resolution went to Finance Committee. Finance Committee tonight certainly has not complied with the 2-week waiver. Also, if somebody would like to make this motion, we could group items 10 through 13. Those are the nominations and the board appointments under other agenda items. Okay, we have a motion from Alderman Collins and a second from Alderman Waters, and that would be to group items 10, 11, 12, and 13 on the second page of the agenda. Any discussion on that amendment? Jason, we ready? We're going to vote just on the amendment in just a second here. And that amendment is to group items 10, 11, 12, and 13. All in favor, please press the green button. Those opposed, please press the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you all. Now we're back on the main motion of the to approve the agenda as provided to you in your packet with that one amendment. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda as provided in your packet with that one addition, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation. Alderman Waters and Alderman Robertson are going to join me. We had something come to us not too long ago, and we realized that we had an opportunity here, and it's something we want to start, and that is providing a proclamation about good neighbors in Hendersonville. And so we developed some criteria about that and felt like this is something we need to recognize some folks, not necessarily because they had chaired a committee or that they won some sort of sports honor, but because they were good neighbors. And we want to encourage people to be good neighbors. So I'm going to ask the two of you all to come join me, and I'm going to read a proclamation. Mr. Lambert, I need his family and friends to join. I did.
Yeah, the whole family and friends.
So if y'all just want to hang out right here.
What have we got you into?
Perfect. So y'all have to fit in one camera frame. So scooch in like you know each other and like you like each other. Okay. So I'm going to read something about Mr. Lambert. Whereas the mayor and aldermen seek to praise and highlight the work of good neighbors, residents who exemplify Hendersonville's exceptional nature and serve as examples to all citizens, and whereas Mr. Lambert has been married to Cynthia Lambert for 38 years and they have 4 children, and whereas Mr. Lambert retired after having worked at Peterbilt Motors for 38 years and has been a helpful neighbor of the Glen Oaks community for the past 24 years, and whereas Mr. Lambert is a longtime member of the Hendersonville Church of Christ, where he is an active volunteer in the church's disaster relief program, helping others in need, and whereas neighbor Mrs. Kim Everly remarks that Mr. Lambert is constantly helping his neighbors with whatever needs to be done in the neighborhood to keep it looking beautiful. He is in constant help in time of need, and because of his selfless efforts, he deserves the appreciation of his neighbors and the recognition of the city. And whereas Hendersonville High School teacher and neighbor Mrs. Erin Whitehead explains just what kind of friend Mr. Lambert is by how helpful he was to her after the loss of her daughter and husband in 2005. In her time of grief, Mr. Lambert was more than a neighbor but a true friend. She further states that Mr. Lambert is compassionate, kind, and willing to help out with any situation. In fact, she states that he even helped get a bird out of one of her closets one day. Now, therefore, I, Jamie Clary, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, do proclaim Billy Lambert as the city's first Hendersonville good neighbor. And I encourage all citizens to join me in extending our appreciation to Mr. Lambert and for sharing his time and compassion with members of our community, and to encourage others to be similar to what he has done.
That is good. If you want to say something, feel free.
I think you said it all.
So, Mr. Lambert did not know we're honoring him. I don't know what lie y'all have told to get him here. It was effective, and so we appreciate this. And again, we want to encourage people to be good neighbors. And like I said, we developed some criteria that he fit, and we hope to do this again very, very soon. Please keep doing what you're doing for our community.
Sir, I'll do it.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Kimberly, you're a sweetheart. I heard.
Thank you. Next, we have a public hearing, and we have the opportunity for people to speak. This is on Ordinance 2022-12, this is to hear comments on a request by Henry and Ann Doris to rezone 4.47 acres from general commercial and industrial to multifamily residential plan development and to approve a comprehensive development plan for the property called Grace Place at New Shackle Island. We have several people that have signed up for that, but I need to first read the rules for that. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address. Public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes per person, and that time is not transferable to other speakers. All comments are to be directed to the presiding officer, that's me, not to aldermen, city staff, or other members of the public. Comments must address issues, not individuals or personalities. Personal attacks shall not be tolerated. Comments may support or oppose particular issues or measures, but the motives of those with different opinions shall not be questioned or attacked. Malicious comments will not be allowed. Speeches for or against particular candidates running for public office shall not be allowed. So the first person to sign up for that public meeting is Lisa Jo Anderson of Walton Ferry Road.
Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson, 401 Walton Ferry. I'm the office manager at Grace Place. I am obviously in full support of this rezoning. I get multiple calls per day. I think I got 5 today of moms that have absolutely nowhere to go. Some are sleeping in their cars at Walmart, at Chick-fil-A. School-aged kids, we're in touch with Sumner County Schools often, and they just have nowhere to go. There's nowhere for them in Sumner County. So we can only have 5 moms at our house right now, and so until space is available, they still have nowhere to go. We have about 30 moms on our waiting list right now. They call back multiple times and ask if any movement has happened on our list, and that is random, so I can't really give them a time frame, but they are seeking our help. They are craving stability for their kids. They want to keep their kids. They want to raise them and be independent, and they want to stay in Sumner County. They want to be here. So I fully support this so that we can help these moms get back on their feet and live in our county and be productive members of our community. Thank you.
We appreciate that very much. Rana Salah.
Hi, I'm Renna, and I'm at 401 Walton Ferry Road at Grace Place. Before I came to Grace Place, I was lost in being a new mother. All the trials and tribulations of it all overwhelmed me completely. When my parents told me I had to be out in 2 months after giving birth, I was so scared for the future my daughter and I were going to face. I was struggling with depression, anxiety, and all the postpartum effects after birth. So when I got the call for an interview with them, I was overjoyed. And now here I am, doing better than I've ever done. I finally can say I have a home, a place to feel safe without worrying if I'll have a place to sleep the next day. Since I've been here, I've overcome my depression and anxiety, learned how to be a better mother to my beautiful daughter. I got my high school diploma, and I'm no longer scared for our future. I'm excited. Every struggle I've experienced before this is completely worth it, and I can say without a doubt to everyone that said I couldn't be a good mother and strive in life was wrong. I am capable, strong, and a good mother, and I no longer need anyone's approval for that. And that's all thanks to Grace Place. So please approve this rezone so that Grace Place can help many more families like mine.
Renna, thank you. Appreciate that. Ashley Williams.
Hello, I'm Ashley. I live at 401 Walton Ferry Road. I had this really corny joke, so it's, why were the strawberries crying? Because their mom was in a jam. And that's exactly what I was in for nearly 2 years, because I was homeless with no hope for the future and scared to trust anyone. But that all changed when I came to Grace Place in November 2021. After nearly 2 years of going from different shelters such as the Salvation Army, couch hopping, motel living, car living, walking over 5 miles a day to the point that the only pair of shoes I had my pinky toes on the outside, I was introduced to Grace Place by the chaplain during my brief employment with Demos. If it wasn't for that job, I would have never found Grace Place. That is a God thing. Last November, I was homeless with no vehicle because the one I had flooded. I had absolutely no hope or motivation. I was in debt up to the sky, had no money, let alone an account. I was full of rage, anger, depression, anxiety, and was very closed off. I didn't trust anyone. I had no relationship with God either. In fact, I was mad at Him too. I felt like no one cared about me or loved me. Fast forward to today. I have a beautiful 2007 Ford Edge that was gifted to me by Grace Place. I not only have a checking account, but a savings with plenty of money in both. I have a happy, healed heart who knows who she is, loves who she is, and knows that there are people that I can trust who love me back. Not only that, but they are moving me and my 3 beautiful children into a beautiful townhouse in less than a month. I get the keys in 27 days, but hey, who's counting? Dee and her staff have refused to give up on me and have kept pushing me to my fullest potential despite the times I was a hard-head and wanted to throw in the towel, which includes me wanting to quit work a month before I had my baby. They kept encouraging me, and because of that, I worked up until the day before I had him 4 months ago. To say the least, when I fell down and lost my spark, they made sure I got back up and rose as a whole entire fire. With that being said, I'd like you to please approve the rezone so Grace Place can continue to help many more families like mine.
Ashley, thank you. Appreciate it. Lindsay Winsnet. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry.
My name is Lindsay Wisnett. I reside at 109B River Road. I was the first mother at Grace Place 7 years ago. I was in a very dark place when I reached out to Dee. I was very deep into addiction, homeless with my 2 children. I was desperate, and it was a dark place. Dee has helped me in so many ways. It's hard to describe how Grace Place helps mothers because it's on so many different levels. I think for me, like, aside from the financial education and planning and the job, interviewing and resume building, all of those skills, what impacted me the most is that I had people believing in me. I had people guiding me to see God in me, my value, my worth. I've been at the same house for 6 years now. We have a very stable home. I am self-employed. I love what I do. The problems did not stop when I left Grace Place, but I learned to cope with them there. With the skills and just encouragement and just knowing my worth, I get through all of those hard times now. My daughter is starting school. She graduated this year. She will be starting college in the fall, as will I. And fortunately, our classes are both on the same day, so we'll be carpooling. And I will be returning to finish my nursing degree. When I found out about the expansion plan, I was beyond excited because I know firsthand the impact that this program can have in someone's life. And I know that there's plenty of mothers that need this program in our community, our city, our county. So that's why I ask that you guys vote for the rezoning so that they can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Lauren Willoughby.
Hi, I'm Lauren Willoughby. I don't know what I could possibly say after all of that, but I'm at 104 Braxton Lane West. I'm a social worker, and I'm the program officer at the Memorial Foundation. Many of y'all may know the foundation gives grants to nonprofits in Davidson, Sumner, and Robertson counties. We've been doing that for over 25 years. And for the past 8 years, Grace Place has been one of those grant recipients. And so for the past 8 years, they've sent in a grant application. That means our staff and our board are conducting a really thorough, they can attest to that because we ask a lot of questions, but a really thorough grant review process, evaluating things like the community need for their program, leadership, their overall financial health, short-term outcomes that they can provide, and then ultimately the long-term impact of their program. And so for the past 8 years, our board has been really honored to partner with Grace Place in the work that they do, not just because we believe in what they're doing, but also because we've seen them be able to demonstrate that they do that work really well, and they're able to sustain that work in the long run. I think that's what we're most excited about, watching them grow. So we would be in full support of their expansion plans and hopeful that we would be able to continue our partnership with them in the future. Thank you.
Lauren, thank you. Brian Stewart.
Good evening, Mayor. Brian Stewart, 1012 Robarton Court, Hendersonville. There is literally nothing I can say that hasn't been said before. I mean, these young ladies here, everybody that's involved with this program, to me, what kind of appealed to me and why I wanted to get involved in helping this organization out is that it's about a second chance. I feel like everybody in their life has needed a second chance, including me. We've all made mistakes. We've all prayed to God. I know I've wore the jeans out, the knees on my jeans, praying and hoping that there was somebody that could help me in the dark times. So as a county commissioner, as a resident of Hendersonville, I fully support this. I hope that this board does as well. I hope that the mayor does as well. These ladies have given it all in this program. This program has given them everything that they have. I feel like this is just a great look for Hendersonville, and I think Sumner County can benefit from having a great organization like this in the county. Thank you.
Brian, thank you. Mike Gahn.
I didn't play to Eddie. Mike Gahn, 120 Ashland Point. So I'm looking up here at everybody. I know I'm speaking to the choir. You're not going to turn this down. There's no way. I'm just wasting your time. But the only argument you might have is why would you take a commercial property that you would get tax revenue off to give it to something that you're not going to get tax revenue off? Well, I'll tell you this, from being in real estate for 40-something years, to be able to tell somebody that you do what's right is more important. So I tell you to pass this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Next on our agenda is approval of our minutes from the June 28, 2022 meeting. We have a motion from Alderman Waters, a second from Alderman Cunningham. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of approving the minutes that were provided to you in your packet, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Now we are on to citizens' comments. I read the rules about those just a few minutes ago, and we have 3 people signed up. First one is Stephen Puckett of Sanders Ferry Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Stephen Puckett. I reside at 228 Sanders Ferry Road, apartment A21. Of course, I'm up here about term limits. We do have a ordinance up here on term limits. Of course, we've had quite a bit of discussion about this, and one thing I think might help us with this, given that it takes 9 votes to successfully pass this, is that if we do make an amendment to it, that we use a directive amendment where we amend at the number at the direction of the board. In this case, the number that it takes to actually pass it, so that if we can get 9 people to agree, because if we can get 9 people to agree on the number, we can get 9 people to agree to pass it. And so I would greatly appreciate that, because I think we all can agree, or at least I hope we can all agree, that we want this referendum on the ballot in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Next, we have John Evans of Cumberland Drive.
Thank you, Mayor, Aldermen, for allowing me to be up here again. I'm John Evans at 155 Cumberland Drive in Hendersonville. And as most of you, I guess all of you by now know, that I do polls every once in a while. And I do that, first of all, to make sure that I'm staying on the right track in the city I live in, and that I'm not out in left field advocating for something that isn't correct. Well, I've just done one with about the upcoming elections and about my favorite subject, which is high-density housing, and a couple of other questions there, including term limits. And I've done 5 of these so far. The first one was November of 2020, and the most recent one was a couple of weeks ago. And in each one of these, we asked the question about whether or not we had the right amount or too much high-density housing. And very, very consistently from 11/3/20 all the way to today, I've got 86.8% opposed to any more. I've got 86.5, 84.7. That was just in Ward 1. I've got 85.6 in all of Sumner County. I've got 85.6 again in the city of Hendersonville, with an average of 85.8. It's as consistent as it can be across the board. And I know that we can't close the gates. I get that. But please, when we're talking about changing commercial property to residential or high-density residential, let's think like Grace Place. And if it's the right thing to do, thank you, Mike, that's what we ought to do. And I also asked another question that was, it gave me a great feeling about the intelligence of the people in Hendersonville. I asked the question: in order to address needed road repairs and other infrastructure needs, do you believe Hendersonville should issue bonds, raise taxes, or do both to fund these projects? Now, I'm not advocating anything here, but I just wanted to know, in the face of our infrastructure needs, what are the people really willing to do? And it's a shocker. It's a shocker. We had, let me get over to the right place. I know y'all are as anxious as I am to hear about that. Let me get past the questions and get to the answers. Okay, and these questions were asked in random order, not the same way every time. But issue bonds, 36%. 36% as a way to handle this. Raise taxes, as you might imagine, 3.8%. But to do both, 25.2%. So if you add issue bonds and raise taxes, they're over 50% of the people who were willing to take a look at that. At the same time, 20.5% said do neither. But you do have a majority of people who are willing to step up to handle some of our infrastructure needs that are so overdone at this point, so overtaxed. I can also tell you what the results will be for most of the upcoming elections, and since I'm about out of time, I can also tell you about the term limits if you're interested. But one interesting fact, 3% of the people in Hendersonville don't want term limits. 3% don't want term limits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Brian Hamra, Allen Drive.
Thank you, Brian Humra, 157 Allen Drive. I'm here to talk about Grace Place and why I think you should approve it. Like you, Mike, I don't think there's much else to be said. It's the right thing to do. I've been volunteering there. I think I'm one of the only men, or I know I was at one time the only man to volunteer there. But I've been volunteering there every Monday night for the last 4 years. They do amazing work, and we're only able to serve 5 or 6 families at a time. We need to serve more. These moms are in our community anyway, and it just feels like the right thing to do, as you said, to lift them up and get them back in the community working and paying taxes, right? And that's all I got. Thanks.
Brian, thank you. Next on our agenda is our consent agenda. We have 2 items there. The first one is Resolution 2022-34. This is a resolution accepting the dedication of streets in Durham Farms, Phase 1, Section 2. And the other item is Resolution 2022-35. This is a resolution amending the job classification list and pay table. I need a motion. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Dixon. Any discussion on those 2 items? All those in favor, please signify by hitting the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. No. Okay. Okay. So that passes unanimously. Make sure. No, we got everybody. Okay. So the consent agenda passes unanimously. Next one, ordinance and resolutions. We have second and final reading of ordinance 2022-12. This is an ordinance rezoning 4.47 acres located at 126 New Shackle Island Road on the east side of New Shackle Island Road and on the north side of Innovation Way, and approving the Grace Place at New Shackle Comprehensive Development Plan to govern the development of that property. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can you make a motion for us, please, first?
Yes, I'm honored and enthusiastically move final approval of this.
So a motion from Alderman Robertson, I think a second from Alderman Hayes. Alderman Robertson, do you want to speak any more on this?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Dee, you have spoken before. I know you have some members of your board here. If you want us to suspend the rules for you or somebody else to speak, I'm pretty sure we would probably do that. However, we have one person that wants to speak on this. We have nobody that wants to speak on this. Okay. So we're going to go to Alderman Collins first.
I just want to say how much I think all of us appreciate the work that you are doing and the impact that it's having on the families and our community. And there won't be a vote I'm prouder of. I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to be helpful to your ministry.
Alderman Collins, thank you. So we have Alderman Peterson, and for you to say thank you, I need to ask to suspend the rules. So without objection, we're going to suspend the rules to hear from Dee or anybody else with Grace Place. But when we get to that point, we're going to ask you to introduce yourself. Right now, we're going to go to Alderman Peterson. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hold it. Thank you, Alderman Collins.
Dee, thank you so much for what you do. I do have one question, though. Do you accept applications only from Sumner County, or how do you go about your process for accepting moms into your program?
So we do not block, or there's no way for our website to decipher who is applying for our program, whether it's Davidson County or Sumner County or Robertson County, but our program prioritizes Sumner County families.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor, that's all I had.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. All those in favor of approving on second and final reading ordinance 2022-12, please press your green button. Those opposed, press your red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you all. If y'all want to leave, it's okay. Totally up to you. Oh, okay, okay. So now we have ordinance 2022-14. This is an ordinance amending the city's beer regulations to allow for the sale of beer at golf entertainment centers. Alderman Edwards.
Let me first
Hold on here. Let me get to you. Here we go.
Is there a representative from the Hangout here tonight to do a presentation? Okay, Mayor, I would ask that we move this to the next meeting because we're asking to amend the beer ordinance to accommodate this indoor golf facility.
Okay.
I'm only listed as a sponsor because I'm the beer board liaison,
Okay.
but I don't want to present this. I'm not completely sold on it. I don't want to present it until we have a representative here to do a presentation.
Since you're the only sponsor, you want to withdraw it, and I'll make sure to include it on our next agenda?
Yes.
Okay, that's taken care of. Next, we have first reading ordinance 2022-17. This is an ordinance establishing meeting for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in certain even-numbered years. Alderman Brown.
So moved.
We have a motion, and it's a motion from Alderman Brown, a second from Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. This is really kind of a cleanup issue. And in even number of years such as this year, when election day rolls around, it also has to be it's a Bowman meeting day. The polls are open, if I remember correctly, 7 to 7. Bowman starts at 7. And which could be a little bit of conflict for folks that are running for office that are sitting on this bench right now. So if they want to stay at the polls till 7 o'clock, and I think some of us have stood there and know that at 6:45 there's a rush. So that's basically what this does. This moves us from a Tuesday to a Thursday that week. So we'll still have Bowman, it'll just be 2 days later. So we can accommodate folks at the polls. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2022-17, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Now we're at first reading of ordinance 2022-18. This is an ordinance amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 14, Chapter 1, regarding Municipal Planning Commission, and Title 14, Chapter 2, regarding the zoning ordinance. Alderman Peterson.
So moved.
Alderman Peterson makes a motion, and a second from Alderman Hayes. Alderman Peterson, do you wish to speak on this?
No, Your Honor. I mean, is Keith free here?
Keith is.
Oh, yes. If we could ask Keith Free to approach the podium in case there is any questions on this ordinance.
Sure, we could ask him to do that. Alderman Cunningham, we're going to go to you, and if somebody else has questions, we'll come back. Alderman Cunningham.
Well, pretty much, I was going to ask the same question. How does this differ from the existing legislation that we have in place?
Yeah, what this is we've already changed the bylaws with the Planning Commission to make it 9 members instead of 10 members. It was 10 members because one of the members was a part of our regional. We had a regional planning commission, and we removed ourselves from a regional planning commission and became a municipal. But when we were on the regional planning commission, one of the members lived outside the city. So once we changed the type of planning commission that we are, then that removed that member. And so we've already done the things that need to be done at the planning commission to resolve that. And this is just to clean up the municipal code to make it reflect to that. And everything is in order with the state law as well on this.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That was the only question I had.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Any other discussion? All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2022-18, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Now we're on first reading of ordinance 2022-19. This is an ordinance relative to term limits for members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Alderman Brown. We have a motion from Alderman Brown and a second from Alderman Hayes. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. Bismarck once said that politics is the art of compromise. This board has debated this issue, and I think I can attest to the fact that I believe every member of this board supports term limits. That we have different opinions on how to get to term limits. So what I have tried to do, I have gone back and I have listened to the debate. I have searched my heart to try to come up with a compromise, and I believe that I have come up with a compromise. And Mayor, if I'm permitted, in making my amendment, I want to ask the city attorney a question. each of you have in front of you a copy of my amendment to this ordinance. And if this amendment passes and if the amended ordinance passes, I would like to be a co-sponsor on this ordinance. But what I'm trying to do is to make existing aldermen and mayor limited to 2 terms, but future mayors and aldermen would be limited to 3 terms. So I've tried to kind of split the baby, so to speak, and I think I've given everyone an opportunity with this amendment to say that they got at least part of what they thought they wanted. And that's the art of compromise, is to try to find common ground. And Mr. Bradley, you know what I am trying to do is the language that the part 1 and part 2, does that accomplish sufficiently what I am the intent of my amendment?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So with that, Mayor, I'll be glad to answer any questions, but I so move this amendment to ordinance 2022-19.
Second. And we have a motion, a second. Does anybody need the amendment? I think everybody has a hard copy of it. I think everybody may have had it provided ahead of time. The best way to summarize is exactly what Alderman Robertson just said. So I won't try to improve on that. So we have a motion from Alderman Robertson, a second from Alderman Hayes. Any discussion on the amendment, and honestly, it could be discussion on the whole ordinance because the amendment significantly changes the ordinance. So certainly a discussion doesn't need to be restricted to just this item. Alderman Brown.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't have a lot of discussion other than the fact that we beat the horse and beat the horse and beat the horse. And the horse is tired, and referendum time is coming up in November. I don't know if it's the greatest compromise in the world, but it is a compromise. There's a little bit of give and take on both sides there, I think, Mr. Robertson. So since I was the lead sponsor on this ordinance coming back, I'll wholeheartedly support it so we can move on. It's time to move on to something else. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Without objection, I'm going to ask Mr. Evans if he can come up and possibly answer any questions for us. He mentioned that he had done a poll on this, and honestly, I'd like to know a little bit more, if y'all would. We have nobody else in the queue right now wishing to speak.
I would like for him to speak.
Okay. Alderman Dixon, so without objection, we're going to suspend the rules and hear from Mr. Evans, and hear more about his poll, and we're probably going to ask you some questions. You have no obligation to answer them.
Well, thank you. As polls go, this one's a little bit cold now because at the time we did the poll, it appeared that this body had decided not to proceed with the term limits the way the ordinance was. So my purpose was to say, do we really want term limits or do we not? And clearly we do. The first time we asked this question was 8/30/2020, and 83% of the people responded that they wanted term limits. And that's not unusual. That's almost nationwide. You can look anywhere you want to. But strangely enough, when you're talking about term limits, to be blunt, that's talking about limiting the terms of the people that hold office, not those that we plan to elect at some point in the future. Nobody thinks that far ahead. So it's you get more of that from, and I'm pontificating, I'm sorry. You get more of that from what we hear on the national news than you do local government, because of the longevity of some of the people there and some of the things we think are not being done because of the longevity, the power of the incumbency and that sort of thing, and on the national news. But we tried awfully hard to not put our thumbs on the scale in formulating the question that we asked. And the question that we asked said, Hendersonville's Board of Mayor and Aldermen had previously agreed to present a term limit ballot measure limiting the mayor and aldermen to 3 terms, which would be 12 years. Now, some aldermen are debating that the limit should be shorter. Instead of 3 terms, they think it should be 2 terms. which would be 8 years. This debate could potentially stall the process, leading to no term limits at all. Tell me, would you prefer proceeding with the 3-term limit or exploring the 2-term limit at the risk of no term limits at all? Well, clearly that's not the case now. So the question and answer is inappropriate. But to give you the gist of it, the answers: 3-term limit, 12 years, exploring 2-term limits, no term limits, and undecided. Well, we had 12.8% undecided. One person refused to answer the question. No term limits, 3%. And then the other two were within the margin of error of 6% of whether we should have 3 terms or 2 terms. So bottom line is, you've done a wonderful thing by compromising this. You've met the needs of all the people with an opinion. You are considering passing, and I think you probably will pass, the term limit situation or ordinance. And hey, congratulations. A body like this, that's what you do. You'll never please all the people, but you're coming as close in this compromise as you could otherwise. So I'd be glad to answer any other questions you might have.
Alderman Dixon.
John, did you hired a service to do this poll? Can you educate us
Yes,
on what
I should have
what
given
process
you some of
you
that.
use?
I hire Conquest Communications out of Richmond, Virginia.
Heard of them?
They're a well-known national polling firm, and I pay for all of these myself. I don't provide them to any particular political candidate, and anyone who wants to see this is welcome to see it. For fear of it being a political contribution, I don't provide it to political campaigns for the benefit of one person. If they all want to see it, great. So these are all done with roughly and usually exactly 400 participants. They're verbal interviews, half cell phone and half landline, and we go to great lengths not to influence these polls, to try to get the facts out of them rather than trying to get a desired result.
Right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Waters.
John, give me those figures again.
Okay, we have 12.8 that are unsure whether we should do one or the other of those things that we ask. We have one person out of the 400 that didn't answer. We had 3% who do not want term limits, 3%. And then the reciprocal of that, 83.8%, which is within 0.8% of the people who responded in 2020 that they wanted term limits, want one or the other, the 2 or the 3 terms.
Either one.
Either one, as long as they get the term limits.
Now, is that just Hendersonville that you surveyed?
I'm sorry.
Is that just Hendersonville that you surveyed?
Yes, sir. This is just Hendersonville.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
We broke out these.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Oh, that was my question, is that was citywide?
It was citywide.
Okay, and how many wanted the 2 terms and what percentage wanted the 3 terms, or you don't have that broken out?
I
many-
didn't want to jinx
what-
things over
I'm
there.
sorry.
I wear hearing aids.
I'm
and
sorry.
I have trouble.
What percentage of the people wanted the 2 terms and what percentage wanted the 3 terms?
They're 36 and 48. 36 on the 2 terms and 48 on the 3
Okay.
terms. And within
Thanks,
a
John. Thank you.
6-point margin of error.
Right.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Collins.
My understanding is you didn't ask if they wanted 2 or 3. You asked if they were willing to sacrifice 3 to push for 2.
Yes.
And within the margin of error, that was an even-ish split. About half the people that responded in one of those 2 categories wanted to push for the 2. Even
At the
if it
expense
meant
of not having any at
sacrificing
all.
having it at all.
Yes. And that was the question at the time we asked it, which isn't the question now. But
Of course.
again, we couldn't figure out any better way to answer this or ask this question.
You didn't have It was a different set of circumstances when the question was designed.
I'm sorry.
It was a different set of circumstances when the question was designed. So you asked the appropriate question for the time that you did the survey.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we were looking for whether or not we should take up the 3 and move on with it, or to forget about it and wait till the next election, the next ballot period,
Yes.
and look at 2.
And I've been privileged enough to see your surveys, at least 2. And I appreciate that they are professional, they are scientific, they recognize the margin of error is a real thing. They're wonderful, but we have to take them. The question that was asked was, are you willing to sacrifice 3 to go with 2? And it was pretty split. And so it encourages me even more that the compromise with this amendment is the best result we're going to get.
It's the thing to do. That's the way the numbers worked out, even though the question was asked based on the period, as you're talking about, before everybody took another look at it and talked about it.
Did you do ward specific like you have in the past? Do you have ward specific numbers?
I do have that information.
I want to
yes.
follow up with you for those.
I do have
We don't
that.
have to do that.
I'm glad to share it with you if
Thank
you'd like
you.
to see it.
Thank you.
Alderman,
It's pretty much evenly spread, but
Okay.
hold on.
I'll get that to you.
Sure.
And you can.
Sure.
I know you're like me. You like polls.
Alderman Collins,
like
thank
data.
you. Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, John, for your polls. And I might need to acknowledge a conflict of interest. I receive your polls, and I give you my honest opinion, and I hope that's not a conflict of interest. And Mayor, I called you judge earlier, and I apologize for that. But anyway, I don't take me off your calling list, because I do appreciate the questions that you ask, and I'm glad to participate. But thank you for helping us with term limits.
Sure, you're welcome. The first poll I did, funny you should mention that. My wife got a call at our house on the landline. She didn't know I had just started the poll.
Yeah.
She didn't know what was going on. And she said, I don't answer polls. Don't call my phone ever again. No, she wasn't that harsh, but she didn't participate. So a lot of people don't. And that's why we use half cell phones and half landlines and just keep going till we get the numbers.
Thank you,
But,
John.
Thank you.
I'm guilty as everybody else of not wanting to sell my property or buy car warranty insurance. So
Thank you,
I
John.
hang up the phone quite
Thank you,
often
Alderman
myself.
Peterson. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, so
Thank you for the compromise. That's a great one. It works great.
So all in favor of the amendment that we have in front of us? Does anybody need that amendment repeated? Does anybody need to see it? Any clarification on that? Okay. All in favor of the amendment that was presented to us a few minutes ago, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Now we're on the main motion. That's where I have to explain something. So in order for the state to allow us to do this, this needs to pass with a two-thirds vote from us. In this case, John, with 12 people here, 2/3 tonight is going to be
8.
Here we go. So if it fails to pass, if it fails to get 8 positive votes, then first reading, if it gets 7, it doesn't matter. First reading is considered that it did not prevail. Any discussion on this? Alderman Robertson.
I just want to thank Beth. She's here tonight, and she's carried this baby for a long time. And thank you for your leadership on that. And thank you, board. And I appreciate everybody's spirit on this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Alderman Robertson. All those in favor of first reading of ordinance 2022-19 as amended, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Next, we have Resolution 2022-33. This is the resolution authorizing Improve Hendersonville to use a variation of the city's logo on Tennessee license plates. I so move. We have a second from somebody down to my left, Alderman Edwards. I'm happy to give an explanation for this. When I was an alderman, around that time, I initiated an effort to sort of develop more pride in the city of Hendersonville. And at the same time, the state was allowing organizations to have specialty license plates. For a long time, the specialty license plates, most of the money went to the Tennessee Arts Commission. The state changed that around that time to where the organizations could make more money on those. So I went to the Industrial Development Board and asked them if they thought that was something that would be worthwhile for the city of Hendersonville. More than anything else, just to generate pride in Hendersonville, not to raise money for any specific organization. The idea just sort of went away for a long, long time. Soon after I got elected and we started the SMORE program, and I am on the board of Improve Hendersonville. I am one of the board members of Improve Hendersonville. That is the fundraising arm of the SMORE program. When we were about in the third year of the SMORE program, and that's the only program that Improve Hendersonville has. Improve Hendersonville is a 501c3 recognized by the federal government and the state government. About the third year of running the SMORE program, we realized every year we're going out and asking for more donations. What we really need is we need recurring revenue. For those who aren't familiar with the SMORE program, this is what it is. There are a lot of students that don't have much of an educational component to their summers. Sitting down with some teachers and some principals and some educators, we realized that so many students come back to school in August for second, third, and fourth grade with less ability to read than they left. And that's called the summer slide. Those children are leaving in first, second, third grade, and thank you, Miss Huber, for nodding your head and thanking me, because they understand that. They're teachers. And that there's so many students that leave up here in May, and they come back in August down here. And we need to address that, especially for our students that are struggling, because it's very apparent when you look at when you look at reading scores in third grade, it's very apparent how well those students are going to do in 10th grade. How well they do in 10th grade is how well, very often, unfortunately, is how well they're going to do in life. We thought it was important to start the SMORE program. We raise money, we pay the SMORE steering committee. They pay professional teachers. They pay for curriculum. It costs the neighborhood of about $30,000 a year to run this. We just completed it last week. We invite students that are struggling to come in, and they basically sit in a classroom for the first 4 hours of the day, and then they have enrichment programs for the last couple hours. Chief Bush and some of his firefighters were out there not too long ago. We had the Hendersonville High School Golden Girls out there not too long ago. It's to get them focused on reading during the summer and to encourage their parents to read with them during the summer and all the time. But like I said, we were running into this problem that every summer we had to go out and raise money. We were looking for recurring revenue, hence the license plate idea. So Improve Hendersonville, again, I serve on the board. We asked Representative Lamberth and State Senator Farrell Hale and our other two representatives to help us with this. And we got permission from the General Assembly to add this to the list of specialty license plates. You see some of them right now, a lot of them for colleges, a lot of them for other organizations. This organization is a 501c3, fit all the criteria that the General Assembly was looking for. This is not a function of the city. This is not a function of Mayor Jamie Clary. I just happen to serve on that board. And it's a function of a lot of volunteers that have run this program. The opportunity for some recurring revenue would really guarantee the stability of this program as well as the opportunity to grow it. We went from 22 to 34. Right now we were at 55 kids that registered for it this year, and I think we had 50 that came regularly. Those kids are spending 8 hours a day in a reading program for 3 weeks of summer, and they're going back in the past 4 years. They're going back and they have maintained their reading skills. But half of them have improved their reading skills. We want to continue this. We want to expand it. We're looking at a second location. We're looking at the possibility of transportation. We're looking at the fact that there's some people that never apply to this because their parents can't get them there. And that breaks my heart. So one of the things we want to do to expand this is we want to have some of that recurring revenue. We want to be able to continue to pay teachers. We want to have some stability. So when a kid, that this happened last year, he had been through it after second grade and after third grade and after fourth grade. He wanted to come back even though we didn't really have a place for him, but we made a place for him because we knew that was something we needed to help. I don't know what the license plate will look like. Jason, can you pull up what I gave you earlier today? These are the drafts from, I think it was 14 years ago. It might have been 20 years ago. These are some drafts that were drawn. And as you notice, it incorporates part, or at least a variation of the city's logo. I never anticipated that I needed to come to this board for this license plate until 2 months ago when somebody else had an idea to use the logo on t-shirts and hats. And I thought, well, I should probably go to the board. So the reason that this isn't really the city's logo, and again, these are drafts that were created years ago. It's not a final draft, and it won't be a final draft. Our logo is too horizontal. So the person who drew this, I don't even remember who drew these, sort of put things together. They squished them together a little bit. This will not be what ends up on license plate. Alderman Brown asked at a committee meeting, will show us sort of what you're thinking. This is what we were thinking, like I said, 14 years ago, and it was just me going to the Industrial Development Board with some ideas. And then it sat in a box for a long time. The Chamber of Commerce is very willing to help this because they see this as an opportunity for people who live in Hendersonville that are traveling outside Hendersonville to promote Hendersonville. The reason that I'm very much in favor of it is because of what it could do for the s'more program. So for the first 3 years, the money would come to Improve Hendersonville, be absolutely dedicated to the s'more program. Improve Hendersonville has talked about other programs and other initiatives, but right now, all that Improve Hendersonville does is the s'more program. So the first 3 years would be absolutely dedicated the revenue to the s'more program. The way that revenue happens is that when somebody wants a license plate that has the design on there, when somebody wants that license plate and they go to renew their tags, they pay an additional $35. $34 of that comes to Improve Hendersonville, absolutely dedicated to the s'more program. The way that we get to that point, though, is that Improve Hendersonville has to get 1,000 people to pre-purchase these. They have to market it. We'll have to spend some money. We will have to get out there and literally sell these to people and get them to sign up for them, tell us which car, tell us their car VIN number, and we have to turn in a spreadsheet to the Department of Safety with all that information and $35,000. So then what happens is the department produces those license plates and some extras, and then people can then have their license plates. So it's a long process to get to that. Certainly didn't want to go afoul of our responsibility of the city's responsibility and requirement that something like this that uses the logo gets permission from the city. Again, it's not going to be the logo, it's going to be a variation of it. I don't know what it will look like. The Chamber of Commerce has hired an artist to start working on that. Again, I don't know what it will look like. It may not have any of the city's logo in it, quite honestly. But it might have some of the city's logo in it. So I felt like I needed to come here and do that. And as part of the agreement to use the city's logo for this license plate, Improve Hendersonville will not ask for city funds for the next 3 years. Improve Hendersonville doesn't get city funds. We never have. It's been something that I sort of felt like it was important that we didn't do that. And this organization will continue to hold back from doing that for at least 3 years. This is not a exclusive request. If somebody else wants to use the logo for a license plate, they're welcome to go through the same process we did. If somebody else wants to use the city's logo for t-shirts or hats, they're welcome to come up here too. By no means is Improve Hendersonville's request exclusive and says we can't do it for somebody else. So we have a couple people asking questions. Let's go to Alderman Edwards.
Okay, do you have any idea how much these license plates will be?
They will cost an additional $35. So if you can actually have a personalized, specialized license plate, so that throws a little bit more of a cost on there. If you want a certain number, if you want to have some word on there, that kind of thing, it's an additional $35.
And how much of that of each license plate purchase will go to Improve Hendersonville?
$34.
Okay. Okay. Well, if this passes, I assume it will. I'd encourage all citizens to try to take advantage of this when it's available.
Thank you.
So this is a good idea.
Appreciate
I'll
that.
support it.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Yes, sir. What did you say about $35,000?
So you have to minimum, according to the General Assembly, is 1,000. You have to pre-order 1,000 of them.
Okay.
If you don't get to 1,000, they don't print the first one.
Okay.
So it takes a lot of selling and it takes a lot of marketing to get to that 1,000.
Do you have even a guesstimate in your mind as to how many of these plates you would sell over 3 years?
Hopefully more than 1,000. I don't really know.
So the first 35,000 of profit would go towards that bill.
Well, it would go toward paying back any of the expenses that Improve Hendersonville has.
Okay.
And then it would go toward the s'more program. That's what this money is going to be raised for. And we would freely tell everybody that this is helping the s'more program because that's exactly what we've dedicated toward.
And so, Mayor, of course, a part of your budget is the nonprofit committee monies, over $550,000.
You mean part of the city's budget?
It's part of the city's
Okay,
budget.
okay, okay.
But I think of that as the mayor's budget too. So I guess I'm just wondering why you wouldn't want to go through the nonprofit, that $550,000 in grant money, especially the first year or two until sales begin to ramp up. I think it would be something, if I were you, I'd want to consider, but also in particular because this is because you're the mayor and this is kind of your baby.
Well, I sort of get that to some extent, but the Improve Hendersonville has several board members. The steering committee for SMORE. Let me tell you, when the steering committee gets together, I just take notes. They talk about education and reading, and I'm stupid when it comes to those things. I'll say this: if we fail to get the 1,000, and we have a deadline, I think it's June of next year. If we fail to get to the 1,000, we'll probably come to the city and seek some funding to provide some stability. But I hope we can generate interest from outside city funds where people get to choose whether or not they give money to Improve Hendersonville versus they're forced to give their tax money to.
Okay, originally though, you were saying you would not come to the city for 3 years, but that's
So if this passes and the license plates happen, absolutely.
For 3
we would
years.
not come. Yep.
But if the first year were really bad and there were not many sales, you would consider coming.
Possibly so. It would be up to the board. It would be up for the board of directors. That's not something that have discussed. Not something we want to sell 1,000. We want to pre-sell 1,000.
Okay.
And avoid having to seek donations in other ways. We still would, but it would give us some stability.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman Hayes. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple questions about, I've never heard of the S'mores program. Is this a program that services all of the Hendersonville elementary schools?
So this is where we started out. We started out focusing on the Title I schools, and that was a recommendation from some of the educators who were involved. The Title I schools we have in Hendersonville are Gene Brown and George Whitten. Those are the areas that we saw where there was the greatest need because those students' reading scores were lagging behind. They not only were Title I schools recognized by the federal government for free and reduced lunches, but we also heard from the principals there that there were so many students that were coming into kindergarten and first grade and just were unprepared, especially when it came to reading. And so that's why we started with those two schools. Since then, we've added, we may have every school now represented, because I know when I just saw some of the students not too long ago, if we don't have every school in Hendersonville, we have most of them, but we have opened it up to pretty much any teacher that says, hey, here's a student I want to refer, we've opened it up to them.
Where do they actually meet?
So at Community Church, appreciate you asking that. So the Community Church of Hendersonville has just been phenomenal. They have a third floor that has been our school. For the past, for all 5 years. And it works out very well, and they have really taken this on as a ministry, and Linda Varnado and her staff have been just amazing. It's gone from, it's transitioned from 2 classrooms to this year it was 4 classrooms, a lunch area, the gymnasium, and sort of a free time area outside as well.
And what about their budget? I mean, is there a financial statement that we could look at? Because I mean, what kind of budget do they have now, and where is there a cost? And I mean, there was nothing attached to this about the program, so I'm curious about.
So there would be no cost to city. Improve Hendersonville has a budget for the SMORE program, and that's, like I said, the only programs there.
Yeah, what is that budget?
I don't know.
I'd like to see a financial statement for that.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman
Well,
Collins.
I do have a few
Oh,
more
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
questions.
Alderman Cunningham.
Okay.
I don't have that with me at this point.
Okay, all right. So the projection is the first year would be 1,000 that we would sell? I
Well-
mean, that you're,
The city's not selling anything.
no, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I take that back. The program would be anticipating 1,000 to get started with, to even do it, right?
We would have to get to 1,000 before the state would print the first one. Obviously, we hope to be above 1,000 because that would be more money that the program would raise for the SMORE program.
Okay. Most of my questions is about the program. I don't know anything about it, but it sounds like a nice program.
Thank you. Alderman Collins.
Thank you.
I know a little bit about the program, and it's a great program, and I really admire your dedication to it. And your enthusiasm shows. It's contagious. Does Improve Hendersonville benefit other organizations beyond the S'mores program, or are they somewhat synonymous?
They're somewhat synonymous. Right now, the SMORE program is the only program under Improve Hendersonville. The reason the 501c3 is set up under Improve Hendersonville is because we've heard from educators, and I've heard from educators that have had other ideas, such as after-school tutoring, such as sort of like a big buddy program, and other programs educators have talked about. That would be a different program than what SMORE is. So that's why Improve Hendersonville was established. So there could be, you've got SMORE over here and maybe something else over here and something else over here. But right now, the only program that Improve Hendersonville funds is SMORE.
And Jason's going to fuss at me if I'm not close enough. What funding do you get from the school system?
None.
Why? I know the answer to that question. So if they decided to use something that was not really our logo, would they need us at all?
Nope.
Okay. It's kind of hard for me because I like the program, I like the work they do, but I also know we've had a lot of discussions in the past year about our concert series and different things needing to go through the nonprofit committee, needing to gather the information that our applications through that request. And I don't love saying that they can't apply for 3 years, but I have no concept of if it were to be $34,000 per annum for them, is that does that double their budget? Is that their whole budget? Is it 10%? I mean, I don't know. It's difficult to make a decision. I don't feel like I have great information.
So this would prevent Improve Hendersonville from really needing to come to the city and ask for money. Which to me is a good reason, because when I look at nonprofits and what they're asking from the city, I always think, at what point are you going to be able to function on your own that you don't need to ask for taxpayers' dollars? This is a situation we're going to prevent that from the start.
I completely see what you're saying, and so a lot of our nonprofit donations, our grants, are a small portion of their budget, and I would feel 100% comfortable with us doing this process with this, except for that there would probably be expenses involved if we were the ones to do this and collect the money, put it into the nonprofit committee as additional funds from what we normally do, and then asking them to apply. And that would take the burden off of them and put it onto us, which I don't know what the cost for that would be. If we collected the money per license plate and the pre-sale and all that, it sounds kind of like a nightmare.
Well, the city can't apply at this point. The city would have to, if the city decided they want to sell license plates, the city would have to go to the General Assembly and apply to go through that process. Improve Hendersonville has applied to go through that process.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Again, it's not exclusive. Somebody else could ask to do a license plate using the Hendersonville logo. Somebody else could ask T-shirts to do that. But what Improve Hendersonville is asking is to use the city's logo on a license plate, or a variation of the city's logo.
So if another group comes next month and wants to use this, but it would say, it would look exactly the same, I suppose, or it could look exactly the same, and they pre-sell and they're both pre-selling, they're in competition with one another?
I guess so, but what another organization doesn't have is they don't have approval from the General Assembly at this point. Improve Hendersonville has that approval.
Okay.
Alderman Collins, anything else?
No.
Thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thanks, Mayor. I've got 3 things written down here. Number one, that's four things. S'mores is a good program. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I would like to see it serve more kids because I know there's more kids need it. So, I really would like to see a logo, and you said chamber head. I think probably I know who's working on it. So, do you think that can happen fairly quickly where we could actually see what would go on the license plate?
I don't know. It's one of those things that it's creative. I turn it over to somebody else.
I understand.
So yeah.
So,
And I don't really want to get in a situation where the board is approving something that may not be the city's logo. So what I'm saying is that if
but it also may entail
It might.
being part of it. We don't know that.
yeah, so I have a hard time making that commitment to you because what is going to come back is not going to be the city's logo. It's going to be some variation of it or not at all. And so why would we come back to the board if it's not at all or a variation that's pretty far away from it? So I'm just sort of covering my bases.
I'm guessing I would say then why are we here now?
I'm just covering my bases. I never thought about coming here until 2 months ago.
Yeah. And that's the reason I asked the same question. So, and I appreciate you coming, but I'd like to see that copy of that logo, what that looks like. The other thing that bothers me too, and I wouldn't mind seeing a budget sheet. I did a little bit of research on their budget. Can't be very big according to the Secretary of State, because they don't have to report it under 50,000, and that's where they're at. So. The other thing I don't like is I really don't like limiting any nonprofit to say that you cannot apply funds from the city without going through the nonprofit committee. So I understand what you're saying. It's kind of a buy-off. We do this, we do that, but I really hate to say that we limit anybody from doing that because the city can always say no. I've served on that committee and we've adjusted stuff. We've actually added money. We've taken money away. So
This is just a commitment to not apply. If you wanted to improve Hendersonville to ask money, I'm sure we'd be willing to ask for money.
I don't want to limit anybody. There's plenty of nonprofits in the city that don't ask now, but there's lots that do. So I guess my big concern would be logo. So I'd like to see you move this to next meeting so we can take a look at maybe what that looks like and just everybody satisfied. I mean, pretty well everything we showed up there a minute ago I can live with, but if we have a goose with improved Hendersonville in the middle of it, I probably can't live with that.
So where I'm having a hard time is a couple weeks ago at the committee, y'all asked for, what will this look like? And I gave you what the possibilities will look like. We're sort of under a time commitment here and working with the chamber that this needs to move forward, especially if we're looking at trying to pre-sell these around Christmas. And that's really where the push is going to be, is to get that out there as soon as possible, get some publicity as soon as possible, to get people starting to think about those. I didn't even show you what I showed earlier. I didn't even bring those to the general committee because it's not going to be that. And that was my reluctance to do that because it's not going to be that. So, Alderman Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Bottom line, how I look at this is all you're asking is an approval to use a variation of a logo for a nonprofit.
Yes.
They are not asking for money from us, so why would we ask to see a balance sheet? Right? It's none of our business, in my opinion. None of our business. So until that happens, it will go through the process of the nonprofit committee. Up until that happens, we don't need to see any numbers. It's just not our business. So I'm in full support.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Mayor, what if they can't sell the 1,000 of these? I mean, we're still going to limit them to not apply for 3 years. I don't like that not applying for 3 years clause in there to our nonprofit in case they need, if they really do need a grant from us to continue the program.
Well, you can't make them apply.
Oh, I know, but we're telling them that they can't apply.
And we're okay with that.
See. All right.
Alderman Collins.
I would like to make a motion to eliminate the part of the ordinance that says that they can't apply. We can always turn them down.
Well, the problem with this is now you're expecting this organization
No, I'm not
to file some
insisting
paperwork.
that they apply.
So where would that?
I'm saying that they can if they want to. Right now, it's saying you cannot apply for 3 years.
So I think what your motion is, look on page 89 of your packet
Okay.
and eliminate the second paragraph. So we have a motion from Alderman Collins and a second from Alderman Edwards. Any discussion on that item?
But I'm not saying they have to apply. That's not. Okay, is that what
Any
it
other
is?
discussion on that item? So the motion is that we would remove the second whereas on page 89, so it would allow this organization, whether they receive approval or not, whether they sell the license plates or not, that they could apply for funding from the city. All those in favor of that amendment, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. We're missing one person. There we go. So Alderman Peterson votes no. That passes 11-1 with the majority. Okay, now we're back on the main motion. Thank you, Jason. Alderman Collins.
I'm.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we have nobody else wishing to speak. So with that amendment, all those in favor of Resolution 2022-33, please press the green button. Those opposed, please press the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we're on Resolution 2022-36. This is a resolution ratifying the transition plan implementing the city's new ward boundaries subsequent to the 2020 census. Alderman Robertson.
I so moved.
Okay. Second. A second from Alderman Waters. Any discussion? Alderman Robertson?
No.
Okay. Alderman Dixon.
Yes. We discussed this in finance tonight, and I really think that we need the only alderman that this states in the ordinance is Alderman Peterson. I'd like to hear from Alderman Peterson to see if he approves of this.
Alderman Peterson, you have no obligation to answer this. I actually have Alderman Cunningham in the queue before you, but if you want to address this now, feel free.
Yeah, I don't want to jump in front of someone.
We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Mayor.
Alderman Cunningham, can you say that again with your mic on?
I was going to ask for Lee's input as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Peterson, no obligation, but if you'd like to.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Board. I'm in full support of this resolution. I'm honored to serve Ward 2. I know the boundaries have changed, but my duty is to the citizens of the city, and I will continue to serve them and this board. Thank you.
Alderman Peterson, thank you. Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Dixon, anything else?
No, that's
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 2022-36, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Now we're on other agenda items, and if you remember when we set the agenda, we voted to group these. So we have on under other agenda items, a vote on the appointment of Michelle Owens to Beautiful Hendersonville, vote on the appointment of Dinesh Van Cleve to Beautiful Hendersonville, vote on the appointment of Shauna Bolton to Beautiful Hendersonville, and vote on the appointment of Brian Silkwood to the Industrial Development Board. I need a motion, please. We have a motion from Alderman Waters and a second from Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Peterson. Gotcha. Okay. Any discussion on these items? Again, we're voting on all four of them as a group. We've already decided to group them. All those in favor of making these four appointments, please signify by pressing the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously. Thank you all. Next, we have brief committee reports. Chairman Cunningham, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. We had our Finance Committee meeting tonight. We had several things on the agenda. The first item was an ordinance 2022-20, an ordinance appropriating funds for parks improvements, and that was passed unanimous. That was recommended unanimously. That'll come before the board in our meeting the end of August. Ordinance 2022-36, a resolution ratifying the transition plan implementing the city's new ward boundaries subsequent to the 2020 census. That was approved with no recommendation. We just wanted to push it to Bone because we had several questions for Lee, for Alderman Peterson. And under other agenda items, we had our reports. Happy to report our sales tax revenue year over year was, well, let's do month over month, okay? Was almost $1.7 million for the month of June, an increase of year over year of $176,650. Year to date, our sales tax collections were 18,526,609, which were over budget by over $3.2 million, and over year, a little over $2 million for the year over year improvement on the sales tax. So did wonderful again.
Say 3.2 for this year? Over budget? Sorry.
No, over budget. Yes. Yes, projection over budget. That's our projection over the budget. Almost 3.3 actually. And year over year it was over $2 million. So that's wonderful news. Then we went on to the hotel motel tax. That is coming back again. Our tax collections for the month of June, almost $40,000. And so we have an excess. We have collected on the hotel motel tax year to date about $350,000. We anticipated around a little over 200,000. So we're doing real well with that. So that's the end of my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Chairman Cunningham, thank you. Chairman Skidmore, Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Tonight we had our meeting for Public Works starting at 5, and we went over our agenda items. Ordinance 2022-20 is appropriating park funds, for park improvements. Funds for park improvements we passed unanimously and submitted to Finance Committee for its approval and then on to our board that will be coming up. The other issue I wanted to let you all know is about our light synchronization project, our update. It is under contract now, and it's been approved by TDOT, so we're well on our way. We're going to have pre-construction meeting on the synchronization program on August 11th here at City Hall with our Public Works Director. Real excited about that. And at our next meeting, I'll have some other information for you about that after we find out what we have to do now on that. So I'm excited to tell you about that. Wanted to let you know that our Saunders Ferry Greenway update, our project, that is ongoing now, the whole thing. TDOT has agreed in its infinite wisdom for us to go with our program. And so that is going to be along in the Public Works Department, getting it evaluated, and we will get it, trying to push it through. This is going to take some time. We had a lot of discussion about that. We're very happy about the Greenway project. That has been an ongoing project for a long time, and I'm proud to say we were able to get it done. Also, my colleague from Ward 6, we're going to try to get the replacement on some of the stones. If you're going over the bridge at Drake's Creek to go to the park, some of the stones are falling off. We're going to get that fixed. Probably, I think, in the 3 or 4 days from now, I think we're going to get it done and get that corrected. We're having some issues with construction debris over on Curtis Crossroads. in that area, and so we're gonna have to take a look at that. We just found out about it tonight before the meeting, and so I don't really know more about it than just that. Hopefully, I'll know about it at our next meeting, in August, I guess, 26th or something like that. Other than that, let me look at our trash collection update. We are down 20% from last month, which is good. That means that our trash misses are down 20%. So that's real good.
Anybody missed?
And we're grateful that we're not going through the process that Nashville just got through going through. We've been down that road before. We don't want to go down it again. So other than that, Mayor, that was it. Oh, yeah, and also thank you for cleaning up the graffiti that was on Indian Lake Boulevard, going down Sarah, the Greenway. Thank you all very much for getting that done. We had some problems there, but they took care of it. And other than that, I guess that's about all that we had tonight. And we'll have the more of it August 26th.
Chairman,
Thank you.
Chairman Skidmore, thank you. Chairman Brown, General Committee.
General Committee met, moved everything to BOMA. We voted on all that stuff tonight. Passed. That's my report.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Chairman Petrelli not here. Alderman Edwards, are you?
We do not officially have a vice chairman of public safety. I guess I'm the de facto vice chairman, and
You're closest to me, so.
I guess so. Well, that being said, the public safety has no report to make.
Planning Commission, thank you, Chairman, for the moment. Alderman Edwards. Alderman Peterson, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Planning Commission had a meeting on July 5th, and if Director Free would approach the podium and give that report. It's a very brief report, and I was going to give it myself, but since Director Free has offered to stay late, and I do want to mention Jeff Coker, our chairman, is doing an incredible job, and I appreciate that appointment that you've made to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Yes, we met a couple weeks ago, and the only action item that we had it was actually on the consent agenda, was approval of Costco site plan. So that's moving forward. So we're hopeful to see over the next couple of months some things happening, hopefully out in that area. And that's everything we had. We're having a meeting next Tuesday as well.
Well, Keith, since we have you here, Alderman Robertson has a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I get a lot of questions, or some questions in my ward about the progress of Costco. Everybody's saying, when are they going to start? Because we know that the opening is next summer, I think. So do you have any update for us on the Costco project?
I can give you a little one, and if the Public Works Director, if I'm off, let me know. So this last approval that they had for the site plan, that was a key approval to get. So that means everything's good with their site layout and elevations. The next thing for them to do will be submitting to the codes department for their actual building plans, and I think they've been working on that. So as far as I know in my communication with Costco, they're moving forward. There is a slight issue that's just going to take some time to correct with FEMA on a map revision, but it's something that's really just a technical item that has to go through a 90-day process. So that's really the only thing that I could see that would delay it beyond, happening sooner. But we're anticipating, hopefully, over the next 2 to 3 months, that issue gets fully resolved, and hopefully by next year we have a Costco. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Alderman Peters. Alderman Skidmore, a question for Ms.
Say one thing. I mentioned this to Sarah tonight at our committee meeting. What a great job that she does, he and her department. I want to tell you and express to you, because I've had some dealings with your department this past week, and with you as well on it. And I want to express to you how much I appreciate your department and you. You're doing a fantastic job, as well as your department, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, and I'll share that with the staff that do an exceptional job. I appreciate that, though. Thank you.
Hold on, Keith. Alderman Cunningham.
Well, actually, I wanted to direct this to our Public Works. The residents of Ward 3 are so thrilled with Center Point Road. There's a little bit of pain there, but it was well worth it. And the light synchronization is working like a charm. So my 8,000 plus residents of Ward 3, thank you. And thank the board for approving the budget that it was included in that this year. Thank you.
Jesse, thank you, Alderman Peterson. Thank you, Keith. Jesse, Chief of Operations report.
I agree, Alderman Skidmore. Director Free does do a great job for us. Thank you, Keith. I was going to talk about how great it was to have Center Point paved, but you already mentioned it. I think everyone's excited about it. When we did that project, we also did the stormwater infrastructure under the road. So Trace and Sarah really knocked it out of the park with doing that one. Trace has worked very hard to get our streets prioritized, and he's full steam ahead on continuing the paving list. So great job, Trace, with doing that. And just be patient with us as we're in the roadway. It's an inconvenience while we're out there, but we won't be back for a while. So just be patient with us. Parks Department has really had a lot going on. Andy does a great job running that department and all the parks folks. 3rd of July was an excellent event that they had. There's just a lot going on right now at Drakes Creek with the softball tournaments going on. Summerfest is coming up August 6th at Saunders Ferry Park, so put that on your calendars. Fire Department, the Fire Hall number 7, got a notice to proceed from the city today, so they're going to probably start next month. So that project is going to be up and running. A lot of just kind of things up in the air to get something like that going, but I think all the T's have been crossed and all the I's dotted, so we might be breaking ground as early as next month. And then Alderman Skidmore did mention the Signal Sync project. We're going to have an update on that, so we'll be calling a capital projects meeting. We'll be working on that this week, so be on the lookout for a capital projects meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Jesse, thank you. You've got my report in your pack, and I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn from Alderman Waters, a second from Alderman Peterson. All those in favor, please press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. That passes unanimously.